Hello, welcome to Duncan Digs Gardening. It's a beautiful day. I never thought I'd say that in February, at least not this year. It's been incredibly wet, windy and miserable, so it's nice to get a bit of sunshine and a bit of dry weather. So this is a Wisteria. Now, the thing about Wisteria, this is about 7 or 8 years old now, this one. And it's performed really, really well. It must like it here, certainly. The garden is northwest facing, so it doesn't always get a lot of sun all day, but it gets enough. And the last few years, I've been careful to prune it at the right time to ensure that you get maximum flowers. Or, with, as they're called with wisteria, the ones that sort of hang down, they're called racemes. And a little thing about wisteria to tell whether it's a Japanese or a Chinese wisteria. The Chinese wisteria curve counterclockwise, winds counterclockwise around structures. Now, the interesting thing is that for some of the trunk, it's actually going clockwise, and then it turns and starts to go counterclockwise. So, to be honest, who cares? It's lovely. Who cares where it comes from? But one thing you should care about at this time of year, as a general rule of thumb with wisteria, and you know, it's not hard and fast. It definitely, but it's a good starting place. Is to remember 7 and 2. So prune in July, prune in February. Some people say December for pruning for wisteria is fine. I'm certainly not going to dispute that. As I say, I'm not officially certified or qualified, but my experience has been pruning this in February yields pretty decent results in the spring. And the thing about wisteria is how you actually prune it to encourage those flowers is absolutely crucial. So we're going to just take a little deeper dive now in, and I'll show you some examples of what I'm going to be doing to prune it. So first things first, the obvious prerequisite, gloves. And the second thing, secateurs, sharp, clean, ready to go. I suppose the first thing to say about this framework is it's extremely messy, and this is kind of quite typical of wisteria. It'll just grow in every direction, and obviously you can train them, and there's lots of examples where wisteria has been trained across walls, over doors, up walls, things like that, along different types of paving or next to trees. So really, really versatile. But ultimately what you're trying to aim to do is a few things. You're trying to open up the framework, create it a little bit more open space, try and avoid as many crossing branches as you can, but crucially you want to cut back to 3 nodes. And if you've watched previous episodes, a node it's just a shoot. It's just a shoot where one is actually about to emerge. You can see here that there's a couple have actually done 1, 2, 3. There's a few here, 1, 2, 3. But obviously we've got a lot of whippy growth, a lot of leggy growth. Things like this I would probably just take out. I just take that out completely, because you don't really want it interfering. Other really long, tall leading shoots we can take right back to 3 nodes. So we're going to do that now on some of the larger ones. And it's pretty tough, but a little bit of welly. There we go. Now it probably looks fairly severe, what I'm doing here, but it will most certainly recover, and in spring and summer it will completely cover this entire pergola on the kind of on the X and Y axis, which is what I'm trying to train it to do. Go along the edges, because we don't want too much shade in the center for when we're sat out in the summer. So again, just taking each one, 1, 2, 3, there, and that's kind of it. We're going to remove some dead growth. Like I say, these other whippy things here. We want to get rid of those and probably change some of this framework here so it's not quite as a mishmash and go off in different directions. But ultimately the wisteria is going to grow pretty much anywhere it wants, and there's only so much you can do about it, and that's okay. I don't mind it rambling a little bit. You know, it looks more natural. You don't want to be too fastidious in your pruning, but ultimately that's what you're trying to get to. You can even see here some of these larger branches have twisted around each other. That's fine, that's absolutely fine. But you will get, the flowers will start to come off of these smaller branches here. So it's just crucial that you get those right more than anything else. You've also got some dead things here as well. Want to try and get rid of some of that. Try and lessen the risk of infection. But other than that, it's a pretty straightforward way of doing it. I can see I'm about to be joined by somebody who may or may not wish to help. But for now, that's Wisteria. And what I'll do now is I'll finish off with all of this and show you the end result perhaps next week. Right, while I'm getting on with the Wisteria, here are a couple of other updates from around the garden and a few things that you can think about this month. It's a really good time when you're out and about shopping and you happen to be going through a garden centre, and of course why wouldn't you, to look for bulbs. Now I think a lot of people see bulbs when they're first sprouting and think, oh well, I've put them there now, that's what's going to happen. It might be something that I can't do until next year or anything like that, but this is the perfect time to actually buy bulbs and plant them, even ones that are in full growth, even ones with flower heads, because it's also the perfect opportunity to see what's popping up out of the soil now, work out where it is you might have some gaps or where you might want to make a slight change, knowing that they'll come back the next year. So I've got a little collection of some daffs that I picked up here. This is called Bright Jewel. We've got another couple here called Tahiti, and one more, this lovely little orange and white here is called Apricot Whirl. I'm going to cut out this old hollyhock, that will grow back effectively, but as you can see they're kind of in desperate need of planting out, completely pot bound. And I'm actually going to put them down here underneath this ceanothus. Now I think the first instinct is it's extremely shady, and it is, but I've had perfectly acceptable success with daffodils in shady spots. There's another one at the other end of the garden under a Pittosporum. It doesn't get a lot of sunlight. A lot of the energy is stored in the bulb. Yes, they need some sun. Yes, they need sunlight. But even at this time of year, they are adapted for that kind of thing. The light levels are still relatively low. We are still in February. So along with things like the hyacinths and some of the others, the tulips that will come up later, I'm going to kind of cluster them around the base of the ceanothus here, just to create almost like a mini woodland climate effectively, and they'll be absolutely fine. They'll flower for the next few years. Worth noting that even bulbs have their lifespan, have a finite lifespan. Eventually they probably will just stop flowering. There's a few things you can do to keep feeding them, but ultimately you're guaranteed some flower and some interest for the next few years, certainly. So without further ado, let's get to it. For those of you who were following me a few weeks back, you remember I lifted a daylily and I split them into this large pot here and this slightly taller terracotta pot here. So I'm pleased to see, after a few weeks, we have plenty of new growth, new shoots. It looks otherwise unaffected by, quite frankly, being chopped in half. And I'm quite encouraged and enthusiastic about how this is going to look when it flowers. Now, these two chaps in red, looking rather sorry for themselves, are Euphorbias. Euphorbia, in this case, is called Miner's Merlot, and beautiful dark red with kind of lime green yellow flowers. Flower for absolutely ages. I had them in other parts of the garden. I've moved them into a shady spot to see what happens. They do need some sunshine, so it'll be interesting to see if they produce as well as they did last year. But they at least tripled in size when they were in full flow and in full flower. So we'll see what happens with them. One important thing to remember with euphorbias is when you're cutting them, you should wear gloves. They have a latex residue, a latex sap, which they produce when you cut into them, and it can act as a skin irritant. So just be careful with euphorbias and just take care when you're moving them, cutting them, and doing anything that might open a wound in the plant, because as I say, it will seep out a latex substance that can be quite irritating to your hands. As predicted, we have some casualties. Some of the flowers have dropped due to the cold weather, but there's no denying it was worth the wait. Just a quick note while we're on the subject of pruning. This chap's a plum tree, about 4 years old. Small, yellow, Victoria style plums. Very sweet, very tasty. Didn't get a single fruit last year, and I think it was because I pruned it too early. You'll see a lot of articles, and if you're vaguely interested in gardening, you see a lot of articles about pruning, and there are certain things that can be pruned. Apples are a very good example, which is an ideal time to prune them now. But any stone-based fruit is a big no-no. And the reasons are fairly obvious and fairly straightforward. Infection, frost, silver leaf, which I think is something which affects plum trees quite badly. So I'm going to leave this for now, and we will return in the spring when it's a bit warmer. The risk of frosts have subsided substantially, and there's no more major danger to the tree. And we shall see if it blossoms this year. And if it doesn't, I might have to launch a Q&A and get some people's opinions on why not. Yeah, keep watching and we'll find out.